Okay, well, you heard it here. Central Kentucky has a mega site ready for you, so they're open for business.
This is Real State, a podcast from CSG South. Join us as we talk with policymakers and public leaders shaping state-level decisions across the South and explore how ideas move from policy to real impact.
Hello, and welcome to Real State. I'm your host, Lindsey Gray. Across the South, economic development remains one of the top priorities for state leaders. States are competing for investment, jobs, talent, and innovation, while also working to strengthen infrastructure, grow their workforce, and ensure communities of all sizes can participate in that growth. In Kentucky, those conversations have included major manufacturing investments, infrastructure improvements, workforce development, housing availability, broadband expansion, and efforts to position the Commonwealth for long-term economic competitiveness. Our guest today is Speaker Pro Tem David Meade of Kentucky. Speaker Pro Tem Meade has served in the Kentucky House of Representatives since 2013 and currently serves as the second highest ranking member of the House leadership team. He also currently serves as chair of the Council of State Government's Southern Office and the Southern Legislative Conference, bringing both a state and regional perspective to today's conversation. Speaker Pro Tem Meade, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
You've had a front row seat to Kentucky's economic evolution over the past decade. Looking back to when you first entered the legislature in 2013, how would you describe the biggest challenges you've seen in Kentucky's economic development landscape?
Well, I think when I first came in, it was a totally different scenario for me. I served in the minority at the time, served there for 4 years before our party became the majority. And at that time, we had a lot of ideas that were there was some pent-up frustration, I guess you would say, and we passed a lot of that economic policy the first couple of years to get us on the pathway. Is a lot of reducing regulation and restrictions on some of these larger companies to try to bring them to the state. And so we really focused on that, but also on our small businesses and being able to give them some relief to be able to expand and hire employees as well.
As you look at Kentucky today, what do you see as the state's biggest economic opportunity over the next decade?
Well, I think the aviation industry is growing with leaps and bounds. The automotive industry as well right now. We're doing a lot of things for both of those industries to try to grow that in the state of Kentucky. One thing that we have continued to do is make sure that we have sites ready for companies when they come and be prepared for that. With a lot of times you don't know who's going to be coming to your state or who's from the interested in your state, that you want to be ready when they do. And that's what we've tried to do, is prepare for that.
Well, economic development looks very different today than it did even 10 years ago. So Kentucky's experienced significant investment and job creation in recent years. But states are increasingly recognizing that economic growth depends on more than simply recruiting companies. So when you think about economic development today, has the definition of success changed from when you first entered the legislature? And if so, how?
I think it is. I think we have realized that what we have to do is prepare with our infrastructure. First and foremost, they need that infrastructure when they're coming to do business in your state. You also have to prepare your workforce, get them educated and ready to go. And so I think that those are probably the primary two things that we have been working on in getting everything ready. You also have to have a good tax structure for businesses to make sure that they're in a tax environment that they can actually make profits and want to come to do business in your state.
What do you think Kentucky's getting right now when it comes to creating an environment where businesses want to invest and grow?
Well, one thing I believe that we did very well was during the COVID time period when a lot of federal money was coming into the states. A lot of states would end up spending a lot of that money once it first came in on recurring costs. We did not do that. What we did was made sure that the money that we received for one-time funding was spent on one-time things and not recurring costs. And so what we did was we prepared for our infrastructure. We started updating that, our roads, our bridges, our water lines, our gas lines, those type things to make sure that we had everything in order when companies were coming or expanding in our state. And I think that we have created now an environment that we're going to have everything that's necessary for them to come, as well as I've mentioned before, we're starting to educate our workforce better, making sure that we are partnering with those companies and they come to make sure that folks are prepared for the jobs that they need them for.
And that actually goes kind of into the next side of this conversation. So increasingly, states are recognizing that economic development and quality of life investments are deeply connected. So this session, Kentucky lawmakers advanced significant investment in infrastructure and economic development projects across the Commonwealth. Additionally, housing has emerged as a growing policy discussion as states examine workforce availability and affordability challenges. How has Kentucky's approach to economic development evolved from simply attracting employers to also addressing infrastructure, housing, and community readiness?
Well, a lot of times what you see is these, especially larger companies, are needing more land to expand on. Most of that land is going to be in the rural communities. So we have to prepare those communities for that. And what we've done is when you're an employer and you're looking for a place to put your business, you want to make sure that your employees are going to have a good quality of life. And there's going to be plenty of housing available. There's going to be things for them to do in their off time. There needs to be parks. There needs to be things to spend time outside of that with your family. So what we're trying to do is make sure that once we get past the infrastructure part, and we've prepared several of our sites. We have some mega sites in our state that are ready to go. So when those companies come, once we move past that, now we are working on that housing issue. You know, it's become a crisis in many states. The affordability is a huge thing. We've seen the increased costs of real estate over the past few years, and that's hurt families, especially when it comes to starter homes. So we're trying to, we've been working on a housing bill. We didn't get it passed this year. We couldn't come to agreement with the Senate. It was kind of late in the session. So we weren't able to get that done. We have already started in this interim working towards the next session to make sure that we can have a bill that is going to help with affordability and availability for those homes for folks when they come to do business here.
And I know Kentucky has invested heavily in site readiness and industrial development. And so being proactive rather than reactive when competing for those major projects, I imagine, is extremely important to position yourself in that proactive stance.
It is. Many of these businesses spend years trying to prepare for expansions or new businesses coming into a state. But when they're ready to go, they're ready to go. And so you have to have your sites ready. You have to be available. You have to have everything in order for them. You already need the infrastructure there. You already need the land there, and to be prepared to go. So we've been trying to do that over the past several years to make sure that Kentucky is right there at the top of the list and anytime anybody's building cookways.
Great. That proactivity. So when businesses evaluate locations today, what do you believe are the biggest competitive advantages states need to offer that may not have been top priorities even 10 years ago?
I think resources are a big thing. Water, sewer, electric, energy is a huge thing across the South right now, especially as we've seen the expansion of industry across the South. I think all of our states are struggling a little bit with that and what we're going to do for the future to make sure that they have enough energy. So I think it's the biggest thing they're looking for right now is, does this state have the resources that we need to operate our business? I think outside of that, second, do they have the workforce that we need to make sure that we can operate right?
Absolutely. Economic competitiveness often requires states to think ahead about emerging industries and future opportunities. This year, you sponsored House Bill 545, legislation designed to support alternative aviation fuel production while creating new opportunities for Kentucky's agriculture and transportation sectors. So what opportunities did you see that led to you sponsoring House Bill 545, and how does it fit into Kentucky's broader economic development strategy?
Well, Kentucky's a large agriculture state. We have cattle is one of our primary industries, but also crops as well. And one of the things that we looked at is how can we help our farmers, but plus help our aviation community, because it's our fastest growing industry and our largest industry right now in the state is the aerospace industry. And so we were trying to help them in that way. We worked with many of the airports, many of the airlines, UPS, Amazon, those companies, on making sure that we could give them what they need. And right now, a lot of them in their business plans are looking for alternative aviation fuel. They're kind of forced into that, especially in the European market. Right now, our largest airport up in Cincinnati is looking to add some European flights. into Germany, and Germany requires that those flights have that aviation fuel in them when they come into the country. So we're trying to help them with that and be a producer here in the state. Well, what we did was we made a producing tax credit. So our refineries will get a credit for producing the fuel, but our farmers get a large credit as well for producing the soybean and the corn that will go into this fuel. And so we're trying to help our farmers more than anything right now, as well as our industry. And I think we're on the right path.
Yeah. And the South leads the way for aviation, aerospace, also ag production. So it does seem like a great fit for Kentucky to have stepped out as one of the leaders in that space. And to your point, kind of forward looking and creating those opportunities that weren't available years ago, a decade ago, weren't things that y'all are grappling with. But what does that next step look like? And I heard you loud and clear, and I agree. I've heard this across multiple southern states that, our resources available in our states in order to support the industries that create the jobs, that create innovation and the future. So thanks for taking the lead on something in Kentucky, and we're watching. I'm sure you've got a couple other things up your sleeves as well for that. So in the future. Your legislative work this year has also touched on higher education, workforce development, and prison education programs. So looking ahead, what industries or sectors do you believe are most important to Kentucky's long-term economic future, and how can the Commonwealth position itself to compete for those opportunities?
Well, I think that, as I've already mentioned, we have the aviation industry, of course, is going to continue to expand. I think you're going to see the automotive industry continue to expand. But it's not just about those larger companies either. It's our small businesses. And we need to make sure that all those small businesses on our main streets in our small towns are successful as well. And they're primarily the ones that are going to employ most of your people in your state or your small businesses. So we just need to create an environment that with our tax structure, with our policies and our procedures and our regulations in our state, to reduce those enough that these folks can operate in the way that government gets out of their way and that allows them to live their lives.
And that's actually kind of the next direction, is that rural economic development piece. So one issue that resonates across much of the South is ensuring economic growth reaches every region of a state. So you've been involved in efforts supporting regional development projects, including major investments in economic infrastructure in central Kentucky. So Kentucky includes major metropolitan areas as well as many rural communities. So what lessons has the Commonwealth learned about ensuring economic growth reaches every region of your state, every district?
Well, like I said, a lot of your larger companies who are now starting to come back to the United States are going to need expansive areas to build on. And most of that is going to be in those rural areas. And so that's what we're doing, is preparing that. In my district, at my district and Representative Josh Gray's district, we established a very large industrial park. It's a mega site of 1,600 acres. We've got all the infrastructure there prepared to go. We want to be ready for the future. And that site now is one of the top 10 sites in the nation as far as NADA sites go. And so we're hopeful, and we're in discussions with some folks now, and hopefully things will pan out very soon.
Okay, well, you heard it here. Central Kentucky has a mega site ready for you, so they're open for business. So call Speaker Pro Tem Meade. Oh, really probably call the economic development folks in Kentucky.
That's
but
right. Well, I can get you in contact with them.
But they're ready. So that brings us to the broader picture. Kentucky has experienced significant economic momentum in recent years while continuing to navigate workforce, infrastructure, and competitiveness challenges that many states are facing. Where do you see Kentucky leading or making the most meaningful progress right now when it comes to economic development?
I think that energy is one of our areas that we have always led in, with the coal industry that has kind of transitioned over to natural gas, most of our power plants and things like that. But it's something that we're facing in the future as far as a difficulty. Do we have enough energy for these companies that are coming? Because a lot of these larger companies, the more, especially things like data centers or some of our larger automotive industries, they're needing so much energy that we're trying to prepare for that. Mm-hmm. And part of that is making sure that your electric infrastructure was up to date as well. So we partner with our co-ops, we partner with our electric companies to try to make sure that we're advancing in that area. So I think that's something that a lot of our states are struggling with all across the South, is how are we going to have the energy for these companies that is needed. one of the greatest resources we have across the South, of course, is water, and a lot of these companies need that resource as well. So we're positioned very, very well down in the South, and I think that as we come together, especially when we come together at CSG South, all our states coming together and being able to work through these things and partner together and developing solutions, it's been a good thing for all of us, and being able to reach out to each other and say, hey, what are you doing in your state to advance this? What are you doing in your state to be prepared for this? So it's a good collaboration of states.
Yeah, we're seeing energy bills pass across the southern states. I know you all are talking and sharing that information, and I think that we'll see more and more of those over the next several sessions, particularly to address the data concerns and opportunities around data centers, as well as the energy usage that beyond data centers that we're consuming as individuals, but also as these industries are consuming. So a lot of our states are working on that issue. So I'm glad that Kentucky's at the table, being that you all are such a strong energy producing state, as well as, to your point, a water forward state. So where do you believe Kentucky still has the greatest opportunity for improvement when it comes to long-term economic competitiveness?
I think that one of the areas that we continue to need to work on is preparing our workforce, making sure that they're educated, making sure that we have the appropriate number of people out there. Kentucky is a heavily dependent Medicaid state. We've been cracking down on making sure that the fraud and the use in that program is cut out, and that has been one of our focuses recently. And so we're trying to make sure also that we partner with our economic development cabinet and our health and family services cabinet for those who are on the program, completely able-bodied, that we partner in order to get them the training necessary and help them to get back out into the workforce.
And it's interesting. I don't think the just normal citizen would think about how Medicaid and economic development actually do have to work together. They are not two separate things with separate conversations that don't ever intersect in these really complex issues, really, for a state. So when you think about the next 5 or 10 years, what would convince you that Kentucky is not just attracting investment, but truly building a strong and more resilient economy?
Well, I think that when we focus on who we're going to partner with when it comes to economic development through our budget process and also through the economic development, we look at long-term growth. We look at people that we're going to partner with, that we're going to try to incentivize, that we're going to introduce to this state are going to be long-term partners. And so especially when we develop a plan for those companies or the incentive package or whatever it may be, it's a long-term package. They're going to have to be here for a while. And so we know that they're going to be good partners from again to start.
Nice. Well, kind of looking more at the regional lens right now, as chair of CSG South, you have the opportunity to engage with leaders from across the region and really across the country who are facing many of the same challenges. So what economic development trends are you seeing across southern states that excite you the most? Well,
I think you're seeing a large amount of growth across the entire southern region, and I think it's because a lot of our policies line up with each other. We work very hard to develop those policies, and we've gotten feedback from these business leaders to say, what can we do to help you? What can we do to make sure that growth is good for you, sustainable for you? How can we help? And so I think that's the biggest thing that gives me hope across the South, is because most of us are like-minded. We're all thinking the same way, trying to work on the same type of policies. And if you look across the nation right now, the South is the leader in this industrial boom. We're the ones bringing most of the companies to our areas.
And still looking through that lens of CSG South, Chair, what is one economic development challenge that nearly every southern state seems to be talking about right now? I think energy, water, data centers is kind of that natural fit. Is there anything beyond that you think is really taking center stage as a big challenge?
Medicaid right now is going to hit us probably pretty hard in our budgets across the South, across the country. But the South, there is a heavy dependence on Medicaid in our areas. And so when that reduction in our budgets come, we're going to have less money to spend on those economic development projects and things like that, because we're going to have to backfill some holes. So we're going to have to do some thinking on that and figure out ways that we can make sure that we have the funding, get ready for those economic development projects. Also, as I mentioned before, is getting those folks that we can back out to work as the Medicaid rolls decrease and making sure that we can help them have a sustainable life that way.
Yeah. And actually, we have a data center session at the Southern Legislative Conference in July, as well as we have our main policy plenary is actually Medicaid. And President Stivers is going to moderate that. So we'll have a very thoughtful conversation about Medicaid. So it's a great point. And then we are also hosting on July 11th, the first day of SLC, the Regional Energy Summit. So we are very much so highlighting two of those big topics at SLC next month under your leadership. So thank you for that. And you brought it full circle. So before we close, I'd like to end with a question we ask all of our guests. What is the best piece of professional advice you've ever received, and how does it shape the way you approach leadership today?
I don't know that it's just one piece of advice that I've received. I think it's over time, folks who you use as mentors will, kind of lead you along and tell you how to conduct yourself. I think one of the best things that I've been told is when I first came in the General Assembly was that you to sit back, listen, get a full grasp of the issue that you're talking about before you speak on it, and be knowledgeable about it. And so that's one of the things I live by. But also I think that it goes back to how I was raised and grew up, and I believe that three of the greatest qualities that a leader can have are kindness, compassion, and humility. And so I try to operate in that way. If you're kind to everyone, show everyone respect, they're more willing to work with you or work for you. And so I try to treat everybody as good as I possibly can. Compassion, you have to have your heart in it. You have to make sure that you're doing things in a way that you're caring. You can't allow emotions to drive policy, but we do need to have a heart in it. We know that we're helping people and why we're helping people when we do it. And then, of course, humility is, I don't think that, though I think the greatest leaders are the ones who give credit to everyone else. It don't take that credit themselves. So I try to make sure that my colleagues in the caucus or in the House get most of the credit anytime I speak on an issue.
Well, I can attest, you being my chair, you've led with kindness as well as your heart. And I have watched your skill, the art that you explained of sitting back and listening and really understanding. And I've had several conversations that you're not aware of, where people have said, he listens, he is absorbing everything. And then when he speaks, he means it, but he has been listening and learning. So it's interesting that that was your professional advice. I have watched you live that many, many times, and it's working for you. So, Speaker Pro Tem Meade, thank you for joining us and for sharing your perspective on Kentucky's economic future and the opportunities ahead for the Commonwealth and the South. I also want to thank you for your leadership as chair of CSG South and for your continued commitment to strengthen collaboration among Southern states. We can't wait for the Southern Legislative Conference in Lexington, Kentucky this July under your leadership.
Well, thank you, Lindsey. And I can't say enough great things about you and our working relationship this year and how much work you have done, not just on the conference, but for CSG South altogether.
I appreciate that, sir. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Real State. For more conversations like this and to register in advance for the Southern Legislative Conference, visit csgsouth.org. I'm Lindsey Gray. Let's keep it real.
Thank you for joining us today on Real State, where we keep it real about what really matters.